Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode 5, I think, of
Yeah,
the. Yeah, let's go with 5 or 4,
yeah.
one of the two, of the Conspiracy Detective Agency, with me, Ben, and my co host.
Jack, that's me.
So, last week, uh, we had the Zodiac Killer,
Mm,
which is one of the most well known figures in sort of true crime stories.
yeah.
So, this week, I'm going on the other end to one of
Ooh.
the most well-known stories in the extraterrestrial side of things.
Ah, yes, I remember you teasing this to me.
Mm.
I now recall.
So, have you ever heard of Betty and Barney Hill?
I can't say I have.
So, this is an abduction story.
Okay.
So, immediately that can sort of set off alarms of,
hmm
oof, this is gonna be a lot of bullshit.
However, as I understand, is this the first ever
Well,
abduction?
technically, it wouldn't be the first because you can look back all through history of things that
Okay,
sound familiar, but this is one of the first where it became like a big popular thing.
okay, all right. It
Sort
was
of
the trend setter.
yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it.
Okay.
So, like usual, I'll be telling this story chronologically along a timeline.
Lovely.
So we're heading back to September of 1961,
Ooh.
which I think the majority of our stories have been in the 60s.
Yeah, they have. I know the Zodiac one was.
And Dyatlov Pass, I think, was.
Yeah.
So the
A
60s were
busy decade.
it was a busy decade. Betty and Barney Hill were an American couple living in New Hampshire in
Mm.
America. That I thought New Hampshire was in UK because we
Yeah, do we not have one?
we have a Hampshire.
Oh, but they have the New Hampshire.
Of course, they have the New
Of course
Hampshire.
they bloody do.
Both of them were in their late 30s or early 40s, I believe.
Okay.
So the standout thing about this couple is that they were interracial.
Ooh.
So being in the 60s, that was a pretty big deal.
Okay, yeah.
And like they would get a lot of ridicule for it. Both of them had been through university and college and gotten a degree,
Ooh.
and they did a lot for blacks' rights movements.
Oh, that's good
So
for them.
yeah, so
Does it say
basically,
what they got degrees in? Sorry.
I can't remember. I think
Okay.
Betty's was something sciencey.
Ooh.
But what I'm trying to get across is that they were a smart couple
hmm
and just nice people in general.
Okay.
So they weren't a couple of crackheads.
As opposed to some of the other stories.
A lot of other alien abduction stories,
Yeah.
yes. In fact, Barney had an IQ of 140,
Well, what's the
which is
average?
is it like 120? That's pretty damn smart.
Okay, all right. I'll take it.
Yeah. During September, they had a holiday together with their dog to Canada.
Uh,
Once it was over, they began their long drive home. So while they were driving home at about 10:30 p.m. in the outskirts of New Hampshire, so think like open road, no one around type
yep.
deal, Betty spotted an unusual bright light in the sky.
Ooh.
She pointed it out to Barney and noted how it was moving around erratically. Betty was a fan of UFO stories, and so she questioned if it was one, but Barney reassured her it was just a satellite.
Brilliant.
He was like a military vet. He was a very down to earth,
Yeah, sensible.
sensible man.
Yeah.
The light followed them for a while down the mountain road, getting ever closer. Eventually, their curiosity got the better of them, and they stopped the car and got out to have a look. Through binoculars, Betty saw that the white light was actually an object spinning in the air. They hopped back into the car and continued.
Right.
As you do. I mean, what can you do?
Yeah, I guess.
At this point, they're basically navigating through a dark, isolated road. So, like, um, countryside of trees either side of you, it's weaving through.
Yep.
So you
Pitch
can't
black.
speed. He has to go like relatively slow.
Okay.
And because of this, the craft just kept getting closer and closer to the car.
Mm.
Barney slammed on the brakes and stopped the car. He grabbed his pistol from beneath his car seat
Oh, Barney.
and got out, pointing at the craft, waiting for something to happen. Which, I mean, that's a pretty badass image, you know?
Yeah, but
Mm.
also, like, that's just classic, isn't it? Like, we maybe have our first interaction with aliens, and the first thing someone does, is get a bloody gun and point at it, and
Grab the
threaten it.
gun. Yeah.
Amazing.
I could just picture him standing there in the night sky, pointing up at just this bright object with a tiny pistol.
It'd be like the Joker in The Dark Knight when Batman's riding towards him, and he's just like, "Hit me."
I want you to do it. So, a large disc object floated overhead, and through the windows of this object, Barney recalled seeing small grey figures looking right at him. A voice in his head told him to stay where he was.
Ooh,
The bottom of the craft began to open up, and a long object was coming from it.
okay.
Barney said in an interview that he was like, "Okay, we're about to be kidnapped." So he yelled and ran back into the car and sped down the road as fast as he could.
Okay.
During which Betty wound down the window and like had her head sticking out of it. So she was like
She's loving
taking
it.
in the change. She's loving it.
Yeah.
Loud rhythmic beeps sounded from behind them. The couple started to feel funny. They became drowsy and
Oh.
eventually they lost all consciousness. So far, this will make
Hmm.
a pretty good movie.
Yeah, it's reminding me a little bit of the X-Files pilot, because there's the bit in that where like they're driving along the road and like there's like a cold spot or something.
Right.
So like when you pass through that spot, weird stuff happens and you lose all sense of time and whatever, and like a minute like skips.
Yeah.
And you hear about that a lot, I feel, in these kinds of stories.
Yeah, that is a common thing where
Yeah.
in one day we might do I think it's called Rendlesham Forest, which
Okay.
is like Britain's version of Roswell,
Right.
where a bunch of people all saw a UFO, and like the two main people who interacted with it both claim like time just went.
Yeah. Yeah. I also like the idea that they can speak into our minds, you know?
Yeah, and
I
I
like
mean
that.
for the '60s, that's a pretty sci-fi concept.
Yeah, I don't know what was sci-fi like in the 60s. It was kind of like big glass helmets, right? With like antennas. Uh,
Um,
Am I thinking
what's
of?
what's that film? The Day the Earth Stood Still
Yeah, yeah.
type deal.
Okay,
I
all
mean,
right.
I think it was '40s or '50s was Roswell,
Yeah.
and so after that, alien stuff started picking up.
Right, okay. All right.
But yeah, 2 hours later,
Mm,
they both woke up in their car, 35 miles down the road,
jeez.
with no memory of the previous 2 hours.
Okay.
So eventually, they got back home,
Did
and
they still do they still have the dog with them the whole time?
the dog's with them the whole time. In fact, it's not even brought up what was going
Right.
on with the dog.
Okay. I think the dog's in on
I think, good job, boys. Wrap it up.
it.
They arrived back home, and while they had no memory, they both felt really strange. They had a paranoia that they were contaminated with something, and they kept checking their bodies. They tried putting together what had happened that night, but couldn't. Barney noticed his binocular strap was broken, and his shoes had lots of scuffing marks on them.
Okay.
Betty's dress had a small hole torn from it, and said there was a pink powder on parts of the dress. Now,
Uh,
this powder has actually been tested by 5 different laboratories, and all of them have determined it's some, I quote, "organic substance that no one knows what it is."
Brilliant. That's a very scientific explanation, isn't it?
So they've all checked it and they're like, "I don't know what it is."
Okay.
By
Interesting.
afternoon of the next day, Betty called her sister and told her what happened. Strangely enough, the sister claimed she had seen a UFO in 1957,
Hmm.
but the details of that case have never been released to the public.
Why?
I I don't know if there's any specific reason.
Okay.
You could say they're hiding something, or you could say it's too much effort to release this crazy woman talking about
Yeah, yeah.
a UFO.
Okay.
Although, another common thing with abduction stories is that it's a theme that a family or this one person would see multiple UFOs throughout their
Mm.
lives.
Yeah, I mean, so s touching on that really briefly,
Mhm.
um, I was listening to a podcast this week called, Smartless,
Okay.
and it's a new podcast hosted by Will Arnett, Jason Bateman, and, Sean Hayes, I think.
Ooh, sounds fun.
Yeah, it's good, it's very good. Will Arnett's, like, one of my favorite people, so I listened to it for that, but they had Neil deGrasse Tyson on this week,
Yeah.
which was funny because they were all just asking him stupid questions. But he brought up they asked him if he thought aliens existed. And for anyone listening, Neil deGrasse Tyson's like a big space guy, like he knows everything.
Yeah.
Um, and he basically said he doesn't not believe in them, but you hear all these stories and stuff, and said like, for example, this one's in the '60s, right? Um,
Yes.
and all we have is people saying what they saw and stuff. Whereas, nowadays it was something like a day there's over like a billion photos and stuff that's on the internet.
Yeah.
And that's just in one day. So it's like statistically, we would have seen something. Like so why is it that the only evidence that we have is through like some navy, stuff. Like what you tweeted at me this week.
Yeah, yeah.
um or it's some like crappy video that someone's took, and it's like really hard to make out. Like it doesn't make sense, and I kind of agree with Neil on that.
Well, see so yeah, I see a lot of quote unquote alien UFO footage
Mm,
every week from like Reddits and stuff like that. Most of it looks terrible and
yeah.
unreal. The ones that do look real, it's along the lines of this alien craft is like just hard to even get because it moves so fast.
Mm,
Stuff like I mean the ones with the aircraft that like locks onto it,
right, yeah.
it's a point that it's moving stupidly fast across the water,
Mm.
and that only this, like, advanced military technology was able to pick it up.
Yeah, see, I don't know, I like that makes sense, but
Mm.
it just sounds like it's just an excuse, if you look at it from one way,
Yeah,
you know
I'd say abductions, definitely, like, you would have seen a recording of something like that by
mm,
now. But
yeah.
the actual craft, you can always make up like, well, they're just so advanced
Yeah,
to
like
the fact they're even here, which means they must have some way of staying relatively hidden.
yeah, and that's not fact. And Neil deGrasse Tyson's point was that
Mm.
when you argue something, you argue the facts, and the fact is that that is how much media and stuff there is in the world nowadays. And then the fact is that we still don't have any concrete evidence of it. And like everything else, where someone says, "Oh, well, it's too quick," or "Oh, they deleted all," like that's not fact. That's just assumption.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot happening recently, and I think at the end of this we'll get to it.
Yeah,
I've got
yeah.
a little bit that sort of relate,
Okay, all right.
but
But
yeah,
yeah, my point was that having like a family in the '60s that have both, two sisters maybe that have both seen something is like quite. I don't know what the chances of that are. you know.
well, yeah, if you hear that a family who are like living apart are all seeing UFO stuff, it suggests something to do with the family.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, yeah,
Okay. Please continue.
I shall. The sister told Betty that she should report what she saw to the local Air Force. So this is sort of post World War II, people a bit more paranoid. Like
Yeah.
that's a thing you do. So she did just that. The next day, Betty received a call from Major Paul Henderson, who
Mm.
wanted an official statement from the couple. Out of fear of sounding crazy, though, she left some details out about like the small grey men.
Right.
So all she said is that this mysterious craft like chased them. They
Yeah.
don't know what it was. They gave a detailed description of it, so it was kind of, your classic flying saucer
Yeah, the,
but
like, spherical
it is
flaps.
more, like, flat on the sides as well, so sort of like a pancake, like a thick
Okay.
American pancake.
Oh, okay.
Paul said that the craft was actually picked up by the Air Force on their radars at 2 a.m. that night. So he confirms that something that night they detected and they don't know what it was.
Did he confirm that after they said it, though?
Yeah, so Betty told him about that and he was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, that night we did pick up something that we don't know what it was."
Okay.
But 4 days later, the official report was out and it said that all they saw was the planet Jupiter and they got confused.
Okay.
So basically, this Paul Henderson couldn't be bothered and wrote that it was they just saw Jupiter in the sky, which that's a pretty small dot in the sky.
Yeah, that's silly. Alright. So, were they annoyed?
Um,
Like, the couple?
I think Betty was very much in it. Like she wanted to find out what was going on.
Yeah.
Barney wanted nothing to do with this,
He just wanted to move on with his life.
basically, and you'll see that a lot through this story.
Okay.
So yeah, the whole time Barney was very reluctant to share the story with anyone out of fear that they were thinking they were crazy. So, they lived in the type of place where everyone knows each other,
Yeah.
and, like, news would get around of, "Oh, that's the couple who say they got picked up by aliens."
Yeah. Okay.
10 days after, Betty started having vivid dreams of being taken by some beings and forced into their craft. These dreams would go on and off for months, and actually even years after. And Barney, over the time, was also developing, like, extreme anxiety.
Okay, so, like, anxiety, like, yeah, that's I can understand that.
Yeah.
The dreams could just be it's like it well, it first of all, the point it's in the story is, I guess, to suggest that it's subconsciously, like, a memory or something.
Mm.
But that could also just be the fact that she is subconsciously making up and filling in the gaps herself, right?
Well, weeks after the abduction, Betty started becoming obsessed with finding out what happened, and she
Yeah.
was reading loads of books about UFOs.
Okay, yeah.
So either it's her memorizing it,
Mm.
or it's her brain filling in this 2-hour gap with what she's reading.
Yeah, with the stuff that she thinks she knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In November, Betty and Barney Hill were interviewed by a couple of reporters. They noticed that the journey home should have taken 4 hours, but the time they got back, they realized the journey took 7 hours. That was just a thing they didn't even like register when the time they got back. It was like
Yeah.
really long.
Okay.
The reporter suggests that they try hypnosis therapy, as both of their mental health was suffering.
What is hypnosis therapy?
Hypnosis therapy. So it isn't a legit thing. I looked into it.
Okay.
It sometimes is used for a form of therapy. Uh, it's not like a truth serum, which some people think it is.
Right.
Like you're still in control of what you're talking about. To put it basically, it's like you put into a really relaxed state of mind
Right.
where you completely like zone out, and you could go into parts of the brain you don't usually access.
Right. Okay.
And with this type of, you have hypnosis where it's like, uh, pretend you're a chicken.
Yeah.
Now, this is more, I'm gonna make you very relaxed and dig deep into your mind about
Okay.
quite often it's usually if as a child you're abused or something,
Oh,
it
it's
makes
like
you,
repressed memories.
yeah, you can
I
bring
see.
out repressed memories without becoming severely depressed by them, and yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it is a thing. It doesn't
Yeah.
work for everyone, but it is a real thing that does help some people.
Okay, well, that's good.
It's good. But they did just do years of normal therapy before even thinking about hypnosis.
Good.
But eventually, I think it was 3 years later, the two of them met with Benjamin Simon, a psychiatrist who specialized in hypnosis.
Okay.
So, January 1964. is when Simon began hypnotizing Betty and Barney. So the fact it was a few years later already, any memories he's bringing out won't be like picture perfect.
Right.
Uh, but usually with something that would have been as memorable as this, hypnosis can do a pretty good job of getting you to recall it all.
Okay, yeah.
So both of them were hypnotized multiple times up until June of that year. Each hypnosis session was done individually, so uh, one person didn't impact the other. They weren't both in the room, and their
Yeah, you could get
stories.
the separate stories.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
In fact, there's loads of notes on the hypnotism sessions, and there's a lot of recordings of them.
Ooh.
So on YouTube, you can just hear this couple being hypnotized and what they say.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first session with Barney, he told the story all the way up to seeing the figures in the craft.
Mhm.
He would then become very emotional and stressed. He said he was abducted, but out of fear, he kept his eyes closed for the whole time.
Okay.
But with each hypnosis session, Simon was able to probe a little further. See what I did there?
Yep, yep. Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
very good,
yeah.
very good.
Without traumatizing Barney. So
That'd be
Barney,
unfortunate.
Barney recalls after driving away from the ship, and the part where they like faded it away.
Mhm.
He was compelled to driving to the woods. Eventually, the car stopped, and three men approached the car. They informed Barney not to be afraid and to close his eyes.
Mm.
Uh, the description of these aliens were 5 feet tall, grey, bald humanoids with oval heads and eyes.
Okay, yeah.
So straight out of what we know
Yeah, it's
nowadays.
like a classic alien.
Yeah. Both Betty and Barney gave this exact same description of the aliens.
Okay.
Uh, and they've both done drawings, and the drawings straight up resemble what we know as the classic grey aliens.
Yeah.
Barney remembers being brought into a disc-shaped craft, and that's where he and Betty were separated. He said he was taken to a sterile room and laid on a table in the center of the room. Uh, the aliens placed a cup on his genitals, and they took a sperm sample
Oh, what, just by putting the cup on him?
just by putting the cup on him. So there wasn't any pleasure out of it. It was just a sort of, you know.
God, yeah, okay.
Um, he said he was probed and poked, so including a quick little anal probe. He said it was quick.
Right, cool. He said that, he
Yeah,
said just a quick little one.
just a quick one, job done.
Alright.
He says they would talk to him via telepathy, as their mouths never moved as they spoke to him.
Yeah.
Barney then remembered being taken off the ship and put back into the car, and so that's all of Barney's story. And so this is over a few months of multiple sessions. This is the completed story.
Okay.
So the hypnotist would put him into this relaxed state and
Mhm.
be like, "Okay, can you walk me through that night?"
And then they'd get, like, a little bit more each time.
Yeah.
Right.
And again, this is Barney was the guy who would never talk about alien stuff.
Yeah,
Like
he wasn't into it.
he never talked to anyone about it. He just wanted to go on with his life.
Okay.
So now for Betty's hypnotism story. So a lot of what she said was identical to Barney's story,
Okay.
except so when they were split up on the craft,
Mhm.
she went to her own room, and on the probing table, she had a large needle inserted into her belly.
Ooh.
One of the hypnosis sessions actually had to end early because Betty was screaming in pain when she remembered the event.
Oh, because she was, like, reliving it.
Yeah, basically.
Right.
After the examination, Betty claimed to be alone with the one they called the leader on the ship. So both her and Barney both described one of the aliens as the leader.
Okay. Did he have a little crown?
He had a
Big
cape and
ship.
yeah. On the ship, she saw the on the ship on the ship she saw a star map. So
Okay.
It's what it sounds like. It's a map of stars,
Mhm.
basically, presumably of where their ship was at the time. Simon the therapist suggested Betty draw this map out, which
Okay.
this map's become pretty famous now. So she sketched out 12 stars and connected them by lines.
Have you
And
got a picture of this?
I can find her drawing. The
Okay.
lines are to represent trade routes, she said. Betty Hill star map.
Trade routes. I didn't know they were doing trades in space. What are they trading?
I mean, you gotta
You gotta
humans
make a
probably
living.
gotta make a living. So that's what she drew.
Okay.
So the bigger one, it's meant to be a perspective. So the bigger ones are closer to you. Because obviously
Right.
you're sort of drawing 3D.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, I'll give you the image of the spacecraft they drew,
Oh, yeah, the pancake.
the pancake.
Oh, yeah, it is pancakey.
Yeah,
Okay. Look at those little people inside.
this map was not understood by anyone for years until the sketch was released in a book
Hmm.
um, that was sort of detailing this whole hypnosis sessions altogether.
Okay.
And people started to try and work out where this star meant, where like what constellation this was or whatever.
Oh, like they actually thought you could maybe figure it out.
Yeah, basically, from what we know.
Bloody hell. All right.
And after someone made a 3D reconstruction of it, they found a lot of similarities to a star system called Zeta Reticuli.
Okay.
And I'll also send you the comparison
Yeah.
for you.
I think it's. Oh, yeah, that is similar.
It's funny enough. There's a lot. It's like there's a lot of people who are like, "Nah, it's nothing alike," and a lot of people say, "Well,
What?
yeah,
It's
yeah, I know."
obviously alike.
And also, so this star system, Zeta Reticuli, is
Yep.
actually pretty popular in alien mythology, and it's supposed to be the home to grey aliens. So
Right. Did
that's
she
a
know that though in
it,
one of her books, maybe?
that's the thing. Did she know it,
Mm.
or is it just coincidence? And while some people think she'd seen it in a UFO book, others believe she wouldn't have any prior knowledge to the system because it was just too specific of a thing to know,
I s-
especially her to just sketch up.
yeah, I suppose. I don't know. It's not unbelievable that she would she'd just get it confused though in her head.
Yeah, it's not unbelievable. It's just a very strange and specific thing for her to draw.
Mm. Yeah, because I suppose if she thought she was drawing, like if she didn't know that that's what she was drawing because she'd forgot that she'd read it
Mm.
somewhere, say, or seen it,
Then
it's
it's a
like
big
it's
coincidence.
very well, it's very spot on, isn't it? If you sort of half remember it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's basically it for the hypnotism.
okay.
That's all we got out of it. The big point being the fact both of them said the same story separately. One speculation from Dr. Simon was that Betty was recalling her UFO dreams that she
Hmm.
used to have, and that Barney was influenced by her talking about them,
Okay, yeah.
sort of resulting in them giving the same story.
Yeah, because like, what's stopping them? You know, it's all well and good doing the tests in different rooms, but then they go home together, and you know.
Yeah. Uh, but Barney rejected this idea, and he was finally starting to accept what had happened, and that he was actually abducted by aliens.
Oh, Barney, good on you.
So yeah, Simon has said he thinks the stories are very real sounding, and he actually believes that Betty and Barney believe their story.
Right.
But it's hard to say that yes, I believe aliens abducted them. Like,
Yeah, because it's different saying I believe that they believe what they're saying because they might have just like lulled themselves into thinking that it's real.
exactly. At the end, though, the hypnotherapy did help Betty and Barney come to terms with what happened.
That's good then.
Although Betty still pursued like UFO stuff, Barney continued to stay quiet about it. Nothing was really discussed to the public, meaning it wasn't a made up story by them to just go public with it and earn some money.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
They kept quiet about it. Although eventually, many years later, the story was picked up by a Boston newspaper, and after that is when it became a huge thing.
Right. Okay.
Since then, it's been part of many best-selling books, TV shows,
Mm.
and there's movies of it.
Really?
Yeah, there's one starring James L. Jones.
Oh,
Yeah,
who
I'm
does
not
he
sure if it's
play?
good.
Does he play the leader?
Yeah, he voices every alien.
Oh, that'd be great. If I got abducted by aliens that sounded like James Earl Jones,
Ooh,
I'd I'd be quite happy.
yeah,
Well, I'd be scared because it would be Darth Vader, but
but also Mufasa.
well, yeah, exactly.
So, in 1969, Barney died of a hemorrhage, which
Oh,
is pretty sad. But Betty
oh, what?
lived. Hmm?
Did he miss the moon landing?
He did.
Ah, Barney,
Yeah,
dude.
he
What a
died in like
shame.
January, and the moon landing was September.
God damn.
But Betty lived on to 2004.
Oh,
She eventually died of cancer.
yeah, gets you.
But throughout her life, she was very prominent in the UFO community and even claimed to see UFOs a couple more times in her life, but no abduction story. It was always just, "Oh, I see one."
Oh, look, there's one there.
Look behind it. Oh, you just
Ah,
missed
you
it.
missed it. Yep.
And that's sort of where the story ends.
Okay.
So now on to theories.
Yes.
Although I'm interested what you think at the moment.
Uh, I mean, I said way back in like episode 1, I
Hmm.
think you asked me where my stance was on sort of believing in aliens and all this business.
Yeah.
Um, I'm kind of like it on one hand, like I said about Neil earlier, it's kind of impractical and silly that
Right.
we wouldn't have seen stuff or we wouldn't have got anything like more concrete than what we do, and so it kind of doesn't really add up. But knowing the universe is forever growing and expanding, and we don't know, like we are like the tiniest speck, not
Yeah.
even, in it. It would be um idiotic to say that the possibility of something else out there is zero.
Oh, I absolutely believe something's out there. It's the question of do they care about coming here?
I mean, even if they don't care about it, they did come across us surely at some point.
I guess if you're that advanced, where you can just travel across the universe without like effort, I'm
Mm.
sure you'd pretty much know everything. You'd be like at the end of Interstellar with all the
Yeah,
bookshelves.
you'd be the fourth like dimension people.
Yeah.
But that's the whole traveling across space in itself is like um virtually impossible. So
From
that
what we know.
well, yeah, from what we know, because oh god, anyway,
Yeah.
we're just gonna get
Okay, so if you don't believe it was aliens, what do you believe was this story?
apart from like that night.
Mhm.
I feel like most of everything else is probably something that she'd read and stuff, and subconsciously they both kind of just taught themselves into thinking it was real and whatever. Um,
Okay.
but that night, that evening,
Yeah.
um, I don't know. It could literally, I don't know. It could be like a jet. It could be a military like thing that just kind of was
Mhm.
there. It could be it could be Jupiter.
Could be
um,
Jupiter.
yeah, I don't know. You're gonna have to throw some
All
at
right.
me.
Okay. So one theory is that the Hills events were hallucinations from stress of being an interracial couple in the 60s. But Betty's always insisted that they were just a happy couple living a
Yeah.
pretty nice life.
Yeah. Also, I don't know about that.
Yeah, there's a lot to hallucinate.
Yeah, and also why specifically there when they've just come back when they're coming back from their holiday.
Yeah. Although a different theory that's kind of close to this
Mm.
is that they did black out for 2 hours for whatever reason, we just don't know. But their brain was just making up a story of what happened during the 2 hours based on Betty's research into
Yeah,
UFO.
that
So that's
that
sort of what you're saying.
yeah, but it's the bit before that. It's the fact that they saw this light, it stopped, looked at it and then carried on and then they blacked out.
Yeah,
It's that before bit, which
it's the confusing bit.
yeah,
Another theory is that the story was simply made up for fun. The hypnotic sessions were 2 years after the event, which is plenty of time to sort of make up a story between the 2.
it is,
Um,
but
Betty always had a passion for UFOs, and maybe she wanted her own UFO story.
that seems counterproductive.
I mean,
You,
so
you know,
I would go with this if it wasn't for a couple things. First is Barney, who clearly didn't want anything to do like, he clearly went through something and didn't wanna talk about it.
yeah.
Like, he wasn't in on this if it was a thing.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Well, he would have had to been by the end, and it's like,
Well,
would he
that's
have gone away along with it?
it depends how much he loved his crazy wife.
That's true.
But
Um, and also the fact they never tried to make money off of it or publish it.
yeah, but it's just like if she was into UFOs and finding the truth,
Mm,
seeking out new life,
mm.
then it just seems counterproductive to make up a story so that everyone
It
else would go like, I guess like,
it is, but that happens a lot.
does it?
There are a lot of UFO hunters who are like, "I definitely saw one,"
Okay, well,
and
people
it's yeah,
people are dumb.
people are dumb. But yeah, I don't buy this. Like, why would you create a story just for this one hypnotist to mess with
Yeah.
him? Like, yeah. Another theory is that Betty and Barney Hill suffered a traumatic experience, and their heads just made up a story to forget about it. So, what would be likely with this is that another car stopped them, a group of people went out and grabbed them, and maybe like raped them both.
Yeah.
And, you know, they were an interracial couple, so also, I don't know,
Okay.
beaten.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And the event was just so traumatic that they came up with the alien abduction story. And the thing supporting this would be they both talked about probing and the, the sperm collection,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
Plus,
But
it's not unheard of that people create crazy stories from
yeah, to
trauma.
mask trauma. Yeah, I that is reasonable to
Mm,
think, but the only thing that throws me off is that if you were trying to hide, for example, if you were trying to hide that you were raped,
yeah.
you wouldn't like I know I wouldn't then in my story basically say I got raped.
Well, no, it's that they believe it was aliens because it was just so traumatic that their brain.
Oh, okay. So not like they were just making it up so people didn't know.
No, no, this is they actually believe it was aliens because they can't comprehend the trauma. And
Really?
I might get this wrong. I'm
Huh.
pretty sure I've heard a story of 3 boys at sea, and 2 of them drowned. Like, there
Okay.
were 3 friends. 2 of them drowned, and the other was, like, so traumatized, and, like, he was stuck with their bodies for ages
Hmm.
until they, like, sunk. And when they found him, he was, like, 100% convinced a monster came out the sea and ate them. Like, he would tell the
Right.
story. They're like, "Oh, yeah, they came out and this monster killed my friends." And
Okay.
it wasn't until years of therapy that he started to remember them drowning.
Oh god.
I think that's a story. I might be completely wrong,
Okay. Well, if it isn't, it explains it. So.
but there is it is an actual thing,
Right.
at least.
So why wouldn't years of therapy help them to
Well, that's the thing.
overcome it?
Plus,
Okay.
both of them had the same story. Like, you'd think at least one of them might have remembered the event.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty much it for the reasonable theories. Uh,
Okay. So
so fine.
throw me some unreasonable.
Well, the last one is that everything they said was true.
Okay.
So, UFO sightings were rampant around the 60s.
Yeah.
Like, everyone was seeing them. They described the craft as moving rapidly, which is seen quite often with UFOs. Even up to now, where instead of turning like a jet would, they just stop, turn on the spot, and then continue like go a different direction.
Okay.
Which obviously none of our aircraft can do.
Yep.
Uh, then the alien descriptions, which are obviously the aliens we know,
Mhm.
um, but it just wasn't as big a thing back then. So they must have. It would have been Betty, I guess, reading in a book about grey aliens, but it just wasn't a big thing.
Okay, yeah.
You then have the star map that Betty drew,
Mhm.
um, but really, honestly, it's the fact that there's nothing too out there and extreme. Like a lot of other abduction stories are they took me and suddenly they showed me the galaxy. They
Right,
took me
yeah.
to other planets and I saw all of this stuff. This is a very got on, quick probing, get off.
Yeah, it's just the probe train.
And there was the pink powder on the dress that no one knows what that is.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
At the end of the day, most people who do believe it are just like, why would Betty and Barney Hill be telling the exact same story during these separate hypnosis sessions? Like, it's
Mm.
possible, it's just unlikely.
Okay, what do you think?
Hmm. Here's the thing. At the moment, I don't believe aliens in
Okay.
this story, I mean. But this year, alien stuff is being leaked very slowly, and
Mhm.
it's very topical stuff.
It is, yeah.
Is that I mean, we've been getting more and more higher up people in the government saying, "There's craft we have that just aren't made on Earth."
Mhm.
And there's more and more, like, people seeing stuff that's like, "Well, humans couldn't make this, they move too weirdly."
Yeah.
So, it's all starting to feel like things are happening, and if ever it's, like, 100% confirmed that there are alien UFOs in the sky, it would change what I think about every, like,
Oh,
abduction
yeah.
story. Like, suddenly you can take parts of it as real.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But
Um,
for the moment, the traumatic experience one
yeah.
seems likely. Maybe it wasn't 2 hours they were out for, and it was a more of a quick thing.
Mhm.
I mean, I haven't seen much on, like, government involvement. I don't know what the government would be doing, like, the military taking them and doing stuff,
Right, yeah.
but it's all just in terms of what other traumatic event could have happened, I don't know.
I
I
mean, it
honestly
would
don't know.
make sense if it was a traumatic event, and like you said, it would make sense, the fact that they were an interracial couple and they were, like, on the outskirts of town, someone could have just kinda been, like, looking for trouble?
Yeah, so the alien crafts following them the whole time could have been a car
Yeah,
following
exactly.
them.
Yeah. That to me is if we're going off of, you know, um, it's not aliens, that one kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I think the most, but I mean, yeah, if it ever is said that, the only 100% proof we're gonna get is if, there's like this global thing of this alien's just landed and he's gonna say hello to the president.
Yeah.
Well, even if that happened,
Well, the most likely thing, which seemingly is what is actually gonna happen, is that the government are gonna say, "Hey, we have some materials from these UFOs. We don't know what
Mhm.
it is." That'll be the end that's literally all they'll say.
Yeah, but that's pretty much what. Yeah, I guess.
Because there's if we get more into the alien mythology, there's so many, like, around what after Roswell, the government has this secret branch where they talk to aliens and let them abduct some people. There's this like, giant
Okay,
amount
yeah,
of,
yeah.
story behind it, and I
So,
think that's crazy. I
I
think
mean,
that yeah, go on.
I don't know much about that kind of stuff because
Mhm.
we've not talked about it. And before doing this stuff, I don't really know that much
Yeah.
about aliens and conspiracies and blah blah. Hence why we do this to further education, um,
Yes.
and to find the answers, obviously. And so, like, we'll have to go into that at some point, but I know obviously there's people that think that the Earth's flat. and there's
Mhm.
people that there's like religion is just people believing in something,
I
that's the
mean,
power
yeah.
that belief has, right? So other people, there's a bunch of people that believe in aliens, I'm sure, but that to me is no different than me believing that I really like carrots, you know?
I believe it.
Um, I don't know. It might right. I've always had this question, right? If presuming aliens exist and
Okay,
they're obviously high tech enough to come here, they're high tech enough to bend space.
pretty much, yeah.
Um, they're probably with bending space, there's the whole time aspect. You can't just kind of travel from one place to another, and it's
Yeah.
like a 5 minute thing. It messes with time. So did there's obviously a lot of sightings in the 60s and stuff. So
Mhm.
like, did the aliens time travel to the 60s
Well,
because they thought it was like hip and cool or whatever?
so one day I'll talk you through the sort of timeline people who believe this stuff follow,
Yeah,
and it is in the 40s, um, humans learnt how to split the atom,
yeah, yeah.
and we created a nuclear bomb.
Okay,
And it was right after that is when alien stuff ramped up. And so the general assumption is that suddenly we became intelligent enough for them to care about us.
okay.
So for a species to split the atom is like a big deal. And whether it's them stopping us from killing each other or it's them being like, okay, these are contenders for like a new species in our ranks type
Well,
deal.
they're not doing a very good job at stopping us killing each other.
Well, Cold War didn't happen end with us nuking everyone.
I guess, yeah. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's just like,
But that's the
okay,
explanation. And
okay.
then it's also the idea that after Roswell, the government started colluding with aliens, and it's why we see more of them since then.
Right, so why I'm just getting like way too this is getting
You're
like
getting too deep. This
yeah, let's go
it
back
goes
to
far.
Bay.
Let's go back to Betty.
Let's ground this with Bay and whatever his name was.
Should we I mean ultimately I honestly don't know. Like
No, we
there's
can't say that. We promised we'd
I
give
know
an answer.
this is like the like
Right, okay, okay.
I don't know.
I'll be honest, Ben, I haven't know what I've been doing since
I
episode 1.
I don't even have a real badge, like, we aren't qualified detectives.
Um, so the answer is clearly that,
Aliens.
aliens, yeah.
I mean, yeah, why would she lie?
I know, it
Um,
would be silly. There's no other explanation.
I think Betty and Barney were actually, I think just Betty was a star child. Do you know what those are?
No.
Oh, alright, there's another bit of
Sounds like Stardust. You know
it
the
sounds like
movie Stardust?
yeah, yeah. It's what David Bowie was, he was a star
He
child.
was a he's a star
Uh, my
child.
child. Um It's a so aliens take up a human lady and take her eggs and create a child using them and put the child back on Earth. Or is it something like that? Or they impregnate the lady
Okay,
without her knowing and aliens impregnated them. And
right.
so the person grows up just thinking they're a normal human, but they're actually like part alien.
Ooh.
And so the aliens will come back, pick him up every now and then as an abduction, do some tests, and plop him back down.
But what would that like gain?
Who knows? Learn more about humans, I guess?
So was Jesus a star child? Because that sounds like that's what happened to Mary.
Ooh, it could
Maybe
be.
Angel Gabriel
Mm,
was a little grey man.
it could be. It also is an explanation of why UFOs visit an entire family, because it
Yeah,
might
yeah.
suggest that Betty's sister was also part of this. Like
Yeah,
she's a
maybe like Betty is part of a lineage which is a star
mm,
child. Maybe she wasn't the star child.
yeah,
She's a descendant of
of star
s-
children. They're star
star
children.
children.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh god.
So that's that's what Betty was. Barney
Right.
was just along for the ride. He's
Yeah,
like,
Barney
oh,
married the wrong woman. That's what Barney did. He made a terrible mistake at the altar.
he just wanted a relaxing life. He didn't.
Got pulled into this star child family.
He's like, oh god, there's a cup on my genitals.
Oh, I wonder if like after the genital cupping, you'd
Mm.
feel good or not. Like, would you get the
He
like the
said,
aftermath or?
he said no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but also going back to the trauma thing, the fact most alien abduction stories include a lot of sexual stuff
Hmm.
is what make people think it was some rapey thing or some abuse that they're covering up with this.
Yeah, I get that, but then at the same time, like sex is a huge part of the humans, and procreation is. I say the humans like
The
I'm not
humans.
part of them.
You're a star child.
Don't tell them. Um, and procreation is literally the one thing we're supposed to do. Um, so it makes sense, I guess, for aliens to hone in on that.
Yeah, true, true. Here's another theory.
Oh god.
Just one last one before we, we close this, because there's so many of these things.
Yeah.
Aliens are actually us from the future.
Whoa.
So, you know, in millions of years, when we've reached the next dimension, we're able to
Mhm.
travel back. And with evolution, big heads, small bodies, why it's all about the brain power.
They
Like,
say celebrities do well if you've got a big head and a small body.
really?
Yeah, like George Clooney. I can't remember where I heard that, but I
Uh,
heard that somewhere.
James L. Jones.
Yeah, sure. Um, okay, slight
So,
slight thing. Just
okay.
going off of what you said there. This is my last tangent.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I like. So I've always also liked the idea. So not the aliens aren't future versions of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that they're basically like just another version of us. So the universe is infinite, right?
Technically, for as far as we know, no.
Oh, what?
Like,
No,
there's an end. It's
really?
expanding, which means it's expanding into something else.
Oh yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, for argument's sake,
Ever growing.
the universe is infinite.
Okay.
Um, and so like I've always liked the idea that somewhere in this, expanding infinite universe is another universe where there's another solar system similar to ours, well, exactly the same, and another Earth or another planet which resembles Earth, and there's the
Y-
evolution as chain has
Well,
worked the exact same way, and
if the universe is infinite, it's almost like 100% guarantee that there's another one of you out there.
exactly, yeah. So it would be cool if aliens came, but it's just us from there. From say they're way advanced,
Yeah.
way
They're a few billion years ahead.
yeah, or 5, who knows?
Or five.
We'll
5
see
years.
in we'll see in 2025. And it's just they come here and it's just us.
Yeah. And they're
And
like,
it's just
oh,
like,
hey.
"Oh, hey, yeah,
Yeah.
fancy seeing you here."
So yeah, what I was saying with the future us is
Mm.
that the idea is they come back here because they're having problems with like reproducing the human race, and so they
Oh,
come collect some human goods.
they're having problem what?
They're
Because
having problem.
they focus so much on science that, like, their bodies didn't feel the need to have,
Yeah,
sexual organs in the
pretty
evolution
much.
process.
Not that that goes with evolution at all, but
No.
you don't know what happened.
Right, okay.
Could
Maybe
be a
those
the Children Among Men type deal. Is
yeah?
that the film? Yeah,
Wait, Children of Men.
Children
That's
of Men.
that starts with the exploding thing, right?
Yeah, that's the film where kids are no longer being born.
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, is it Handmaiden's Tale? Where it's like kids are controlled and you
Uh,
can only have sex with like your handmaiden or something? Like you have someone that you have sex with? I can't remember.
that sounds sure.
Oh
But
boy.
yeah, there you've dipped a toe into the world of abductions.
I know, we went on quite a few
So
side roads there.
yeah, this is the one of the ones where it's like it's not insane.
Mm.
There's some real crazies out there, and this one's pretty grounded.
I'm excited to go into them at some point.
Oh, don't you worry.
I'm sure we'll get there.
But yeah, I'm not going to give a hint for next time,
Oh, what? Okay.
just because uh, it's going to be the most relaxed one. So
Okay.
far, it's all involved either murder or just creepy stuff.
Yeah, probing and
Yeah, the next one's going to be fun. Sit back and relax
oh, okay.
and enjoy a good story.
Oh, you go okay, all right. I'll bring a
Yeah,
beer.
yeah, exactly. Get a little floaty donut in a pool and sit on it.
Oh, yeah. All right. That sounds good. I'm excited. It'd be a nice little easy break.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, and farewell, everyone.
Well, thank you for sharing.
Thank you.